Good day, everyone. How are we? Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. First deadline stream of the season. Plenty of you already in the chat, so good to see all of you already making the most of your fantasy deadline decisions. Alamard, Radio Paddock, Ethan, Jason, Sammy, Jeremy, good to see you guys. I'm assuming audio is good. And yeah, hope you're all having a great day. Thought I'd dress it up a little bit for the first deadline stream of the season. The bow tie is a bit crooked, but wanted to put on a show, get the nice dinnerware out for the first one. Don't expect this every single race weekend, guys, but good to see you all here. Good turnout. I thought we'd kind of just go through everything, unpack the stream, decisions, the free practice times, the fantasy tools simulations. I'll cover all of your questions off in the chat, but thank you everyone for joining. The bow tie does go hard, doesn't it, Mucky? But I feel like it's a little crooked. Anyway, like I said, don't get used to it. But good to see you all back. I'm super pumped. We've got 2 hours to unpack, so I know if you get sick of me, feel free to drop in and out as you please. There's at least 3 other streams I understand going on in the lead up to qualifying. We've got Ewan, who I believe is doing one right now. And then I think Adam and Zach and Tom are on a bit later. So fingers crossed we can reach a decision by the end of the stream, because I am no closer to making mine than I was 2 hours ago before practice. I'll start off with a few questions, then maybe, guys, we can jump into some free practice data and go through that after what we've just seen within the last hour. So yeah, question from Radio Paddock: Ferrari and Williams or Mercedes and Williams? That's a good one. I think Williams is more on my radar now than it was an hour ago, and I'm sure it's the same for many of you. If I don't have Williams in my team 1, they are 100% in my team 2. So I think we'll try and get to a decision by the end of the 2 hours, but they're very much at the forefront of my thinking compared to maybe where we were after FP2 yesterday. And yeah, spot on. LBJ, I definitely think there's more questions than answers. For those of you playing F1 Fantasy for the first time this year, I think get used to the fact that going into free practice 3, you'll have maybe a couple of lineups in mind, and then obviously by the end of FP3, it'll be even more difficult to make a decision. Just bear with me, guys. I'll just fire something off that I didn't share before. Here we go. Beauty. So now that's done. Let's see, what else have we got? Yeah, rain. I hope it's all right out at Albert Park, because we had it pretty good yesterday, but I feel like it's a lot worse today. Just looking out the window, it doesn't look too bad, but the heat is killing me right now. So yeah, we'll start with a few questions. And for those of you guys joining from Europe and the UK, I have to commend your dedication. So what do we got? Jason's asking, thinking Verstappen or Piastri after FP3 of McLaren and Williams, constructors, all the rest rookie drivers. I think, look, this is probably a great time to bring up the free practice time. So why don't we do that now? Okay, so this is free practice. I'm, pretty mixed on some of the takeaways from free practice. I think heading into the last practice session, I was very wedded to the idea of a Piastri, Mercedes, Ferrari, and now it's looking more like I could go one of 3 or 4 different ways, just simply because Williams looked so good. And I think Albon and Sainz were, right up there. At one point, they were 2nd and 3rd. And to be honest, I'm not expecting them to be contending for podiums this weekend, straight out of the gate. But I do think there's a world in which both of these guys are, on or around P5 down to P7, P8. And I think their FP3 times are pretty much representative of that. So, Yeah, I think Piastri still over Max Verstappen probably to me feels like the play just because of how good McLaren look. So yeah, lost my mark in the chat, but I'll try and get to where was I? League code, Kevin, is in the, if it's not in the description for this video, apologies if it's not, it'll absolutely be in my Twitter and X bio or in the video description of other ones I've posted up on the channel recently. So yeah, I think, McLaren's a good one. Let's start with that because Toro's asking, if they were to be dominant, is the price too high? I don't think so. I think, they do look good. We go down to Lando's time 10th. I don't think that's anywhere representative of what Lando is as a driver. I think he's got the most kind of upside as a fantasy asset this weekend, regardless of his price. Do I think I'll own him? Probably not, but I think you can very much cover that off with the Constructor. And I think 30 million for the McLaren Constructor is probably where I'd expect it to be, depending on how good they really are this weekend. May even be a little underpriced, but I've said that before and obviously been surprised or disappointed. So yeah, I think Ferrari at McLaren, apologies, is probably spot on in terms of what they're priced at. FP3 simulations on F1 Fantasy Tools, I haven't seen anything yet on that. I will have to keep tabs on their Twitter. They usually do a good job of that. Particularly earlier in the season when there's more people really eager to get their information, but we'll have to wait and see. We've obviously only got 2 hours, so keep an eye on that. I'll share them on the screen if and when they're coming in. And yeah, I think kind of on the constructors, are they a lock, Ferrari, Mercedes? That's kind of where my head was. And we've got Ferrari here. Leclerc was complaining about a bit of understeer in FP3. I'm not necessarily sure that that's enough of a red herring for me to be completely scared away from me. And I do sometimes try to lean more on FP2 as a better yardstick than FP3. It's very easy to knee jerk based on some of the times that the drivers put in on the Saturday before qualifying. And, these are the FP2 times. Charles 1/10 up ahead. Apologies for the cropping, I think, on the right-hand side. We're missing part of the time, but, being a 10th ahead of the McLarens, Lewis within striking distance, I wouldn't say the Red Bull or the Racing Bulls are typically going to be that high. So my guess is I'd say McLaren is number 1 and then Ferrari is 2A and Mercedes 2B. I think it's much closer than maybe what we give it credit for, the Mercedes Constructor. And I think Williams, their performance recently opens the door as well. Yeah, I think Behrman, a couple of questions that Ali's asking about Behrman, no way, must avoid. I think, Mike, we can absolutely agree Haas is an avoid. I just wasn't impressed by their times across all 3 sessions. Behrman didn't get any running in yesterday's second session. He obviously ran into the gravel in today's session. And Ocon, where was he? He was at the bottom as well, wasn't he? 18th. He's 1.4. Yeah, that's dreadful for Haas. So I'm probably going to be avoiding them at all costs. There might be a situation where I hold on to Ocon, but Behrman is probably 99% not in my team now. Okay, what else have we got here? I think McLaren and Williams, a few of you guys mentioning that in the chat. I definitely think they're going to be really popular. Paddy's obviously going down that route. And I think Williams, let's talk about them for a little bit because we've talked about McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes. So I think I had some reservations about them heading into today, simply because last year we saw Racing Bulls have a really fast start in preseason testing, and then the first couple of practice sessions of last year in Bahrain. I think Ricciardo was P1 in FP1 for the first race weekend last year. And then progressively over the free practice sessions, their long run and their single lap pace just didn't seem to stack up to what many of us thought it would be. And so for that reason, I was going into today really expecting Williams to drop away. And they were right up there for the first 3 quarters of the session. I thought Sainz and Albon looked really good. They're 0.3 off pole. I still think McLaren and then Mercedes are certainly ahead of them. And I'd also say Ferrari. But Red Bull are nowhere unless Max is dragging that thing around the track. So I think Williams looks to be the 5th best. And I think that's why people are looking at Oscar Piastri McLaren, Constructor, Williams and Carlos Sainz. And I do think that's one such opportunity for people to not just target points, but also budget gain heading into the next race week of the season. Where are we? Is it better to have, Avril's asking, 2 really strong constructors with high value drivers or expensive drivers with value constructors? I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about at the moment. I think you probably want to strike that balance. At least that's my approach to this weekend. The pricing model, for those of you that have been following along, that F1 Fantasy Tools have really done a good job of trying to crack, makes me think there's, although pretty confident in what they've been able to calculate, a degree of uncertainty around what that could mean, whether or not there's that average over the 3 race rolling average, what that means for the first race. Are we taking those 0 results for mock races? And apologies if this doesn't make any sense if it's news to you now, but I think just because there's a new pricing model, I'm more inclined to just play it safe for a week, make sure we're on the same page with the price gain and the price model, and then use a wild card if I absolutely have to pull the ripcord in China on the limitless weekend, or consider an alternative. So I think, a long way to answer the question around Williams, but I do see there being a situation where a lot of people do go down McLaren, Williams, Sainz, Piastri this weekend. But there's also going to be, I think, a cohort of individuals, and I'm on it right now, but that might change in the next 2 hours, of going Piastri, Ferrari, Mercedes. And I've looked at my team right now. There's a world in which I could get to Williams next weekend with a -10. I could also wildcard, but I think with the weather as well, that perhaps throws a spanner in the works, running rookies or the Mercedes Constructor with Kimi. I'll be showing my team on stream. I haven't decided. I haven't even got a tweet lined up to share that either, but I'll probably land on something by... It's 2 p.m. here in Melbourne, so 3:30. Hopefully I've made my mind up. I'm thinking I've kind of been in the camp of not trying to get too carried away with free practice today, so we could see some changes in the next hour or so, but we will see. Let's bring where I'm up at the moment, and obviously we can jump around, go through some combinations. Emilio, Doohan or Hulk? I think that's a really good one. I think there's a case to be made for both, and I've been honestly really conservative on Hulkenberg in the lead up to probably the last day or so, simply because he's a driver that we know qualifies so well. And from what we saw last year, he probably actually, for me, Hulkenberg kind of broke that narrative as a driver that would qualify well and lose position, because he was in a car like Haas that had very good race pace. I was a little more skeptical this time around because Sauber is an absolute dog to drive. And I think probably, as we've seen in the free practice times, is it today or was it yesterday? I mean, 16th is probably kind of where he's ceiling is in that car, but I think he was in the top 10 yesterday, wasn't he? He was 8th. I could certainly see a situation where Hulkenberg qualifies in the top 10, or at least gets into Q2, and the race pace of that Sauber just completely falls away over 50 or 60 laps. And so my concern is that he might bank a couple of qualifying points but loses a bunch of positions on the Sunday. I think the reason I've changed my thought process in the last 48 hours, 24 hours, is because of that rookie risk. We've seen Behrman really stink up the joint the last couple of sessions, and then Lawson, Kimi have kind of rubber banded in terms of where they've been on the timing charts. Kimi looked good today, I will be honest, but there's kind of mixed reviews among the rookie cohort, and I think given the DNF penalty is still really, really harsh with a -20 this year, I'm leaning towards going for maybe a few more reliable drivers from the get-go, and that's kind of why you can see Lance Stroll, which you must be asking me, are you losing your mind? Is Lance even remotely reliable? I'll get to him in a second, but that's why I'm leaning towards Hulkenberg over the likes of Ocon, or maybe not Ocon, but Behrman, Doohan. That's kind of it. I guess Bortoleto and Hadjar are tough to obviously ignore because of how affordable they are. Sonoda or Alonso. I'm probably going to say Sonoda, but I don't think it's. I don't think there's much in it. Thoughts on a risky Antonelli 2 times with Williams, McLaren? I mean, I think that's pretty ballsy, Bobbit. I would probably go more towards, if you're going McLaren Williams, I'd probably go Piastri or Norris, because if you've got Doohan and Hadjar already in there, you're already running budget drivers. So I think if you're going from the McLaren Williams, you really have to go for a McLaren driver to double up on that. McLaren Ferrari and B tier assets. I think I've seen that a little bit so far. I'm just a little worried. Let's tinker with some other combinations you guys are throwing in the chat, because I want to get to as many questions as possible this stream. So someone was asking McLaren Ferrari. The problem with that is I'm almost certain you can't get to anyone more than Carlos Sainz in your 2x slot, even if you were to get some of the cheapest drivers. Let's just throw these guys in. Where does that get us? Like 11.2. I think that's not quite Gasly. Yeah. So you're really stuck with a lineup like this if you went for the 2 most expensive constructors. That's why I think also Carlos Sainz great in a vacuum, but I think you really want to be targeting one of the drivers, the experienced drivers in the A tier, as your 2x for the first couple of weeks. Doohan or Bortoleto for me. And if you can see my top drivers on the screen, hopefully that gives you on the top right hand side an indication of where my head's at. Now I toed and froed, I've changed the order a little bit. If you've seen my final thoughts video last night, I set out the top drivers and constructors based on, I think, their value for money proposition as well as maybe their experience in the rain. I've changed that a little bit, bumped up Stroll, Hulkenberg, moved out, Behrman and a couple of the rookies as well. So that's probably where I see myself going in terms of sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Where I see myself going in terms of the different value for money points per million basis for this weekend. I'm going to let's throw that. Oh, we lost the screen there. Didn't want that. So this is where I had in my final thoughts. I think to go. We'll come back to that in just a second. I think this was the slide. I had it up in my final thoughts last night, and probably I've changed it a little bit in terms of gone for more of the experience and reliability in the wet, and maybe downgraded a little bit some of the rookie drivers. So Doohan not on the screen here anymore. Behrman's, I think I was probably a bit more bullish on him. He's now a little bit further down. And then also the Haas constructor, I've moved a little bit further down, but for the most part, everything else is more or less in place. Hulkenberg and Stroll have moved up just because of their experience in the wet weather. So that's kind of where my head is at right now. Tools just said Sims are coming soon. Thanks for the update, Mike. We'll bring those up in just a second. I'll try and find my marker in the chat to cover off a few more of your questions, guys. I'll throw my team back up on screen too, so you guys can see what I'm currently on, but fully expect this could change before the end of the deadline. Let's talk about, I think we've talked about Haas already. Hulkenberg or Bortoleto, I think that's a tricky one, but right now, Bortoleto, just simply because of his price, he's got a reputation for reliability in the junior formulas, so I think that's really good. Another thing was, I think Danny's raised this question, and whether you're new or experienced F1 fantasy managers, a lot of people ask why driver A over driver B. If driver B's time is worse than driver A, wouldn't you go for driver A? In this game, because you get more points for overtakes and gaining positions, you want drivers in the back marking teams to qualify as low as possible. If you're a Bortoleto qualifying 15th, you're more than likely going to lose positions than gain them. So you want back markers that qualify badly, and you want top drivers that drive well. So let's quickly get the team up. I'll let you guys jump into this in just a second. And I'll cover off a few more questions. Triple V carb, is that good? Bernard's asking. I'm not entirely convinced, to be honest. I think I like Hadjar. He was really quick yesterday. Really good record last year in Formula 2. I'm inclined to say yes to Hadjar, but I think triple V-carb's probably a little aggressive for my liking. I think a lot of people will be going a B-tier constructor, but I think most people, after what we've seen today, are probably going to go Williams, and then behind that, Alpine and V-carb. I wouldn't go near Haas. Bortoleto or Ocon. I think Ocon for me, and Stroll or Hulkenberg. That's a tricky one. I've got both at the moment. If it's 1-for-1, I'm probably... The thing is, like, what can you do with an extra 1.7 million by going Hulkenberg over Stroll? Can you upgrade a rookie driver to someone like an Ocon? Even though it's a terrible car, I think the experience I'd take over a rookie driver. But if it's just simply 1-for-1, I think right now I'd go... I want to say Stroll, but probably Hulkenberg, which seems a bit contrary to my thought process, but where I'm at right now. I can't remember where I saw this in the chat, but someone mentioned to drop a like on the stream. I'm pretty terrible at doing this on live streams, but you're probably sick of hearing it from me on my videos. So yeah, if you guys would not mind dropping a like, that honestly helps the video, the algorithm. Honestly gets more people into the chat as well, which I think creates a pretty robust discussion, which hopefully we're having so far, and you're not sick of my voice 20 minutes into the conversation. Yeah, Mike, let's talk about Stroll, because I did say I wanted to talk about this guy a little while ago, and I did. Let's bring up a tweet I had on my page earlier, because I'm not a Stroll believer. I wouldn't say I've had a lot of great times with Lance Stroll in F1 Fantasy over the last few years, but I did want to provide some of my reasoning for why he's in my team or on my shortlist at the moment. I think someone like Lance Stroll does get a lot of slack, and perhaps deservedly so, because of some of his inconsistencies, but wet weather driving is, funnily enough, something that's a bit of a strong suit for the Canadian. I think Stroll, as I've got here on the screen, and I don't know if there's any truth to this whatsoever, but because he is a typically slower driver, is it simply because the cars are regressing in speed to a point that's more comfortable with how he drives the car that he's suddenly more competitive in the grid? I don't necessarily know if I would call him a wet weather driver, but he's had a number of really good results in the wet. He's also had some terrible ones. You only have to go back to the formation lap in Brazil last year to know that. But I do think the flexibility he gives at 8.1 right now, you have the examples I've got on the screen here, the Piastri Mercedes Ferrari team, the Piastri Williams combination. I think there's certainly a possibility I bring him in, but I'm not 100% sure on Lance Stroll. Is anyone else thinking about Lance Stroll? Because I feel like I might be a little delusional, and maybe I've cherry-picked information here to justify a decision should that time come. But right now, I'm probably 50-50, and I think in favor of him is his kind of historical performances in the wet. What's against him is obviously his inconsistencies. All right. Where else? Piastri or Norris DRS? I think, Bernard, it depends on the rest of your team. I think if it's the McLaren-Williams combination, I'd still probably go Piastri just because of his price, and it means you could get in Carlos Sainz as well. But, is anyone running Norris? Because I've not seen a lot of Lando Norris, again, because of his price. We saw this with Max Verstappen last year, where you went Max and Red Bull and a B-tier constructor, or B-tier what's considered now. This year, you'd have to go very much the same. Lando Norris, McLaren, and a Williams, but the rest is fodder. So I'm not seeing a lot of Lando Norris in the teams. If I've been called delusional about Lance Stroll, I'm not going to disagree with that, because I probably am on the Kool-Aid just a little bit at the moment. Antonelli, yeah, let's get into Kimi Antonelli. hopefully I won't ramble too much about him, but I think yesterday there was a lot of kind of skepticism around Kimi, a rookie, untested, unproven. We saw his 10 minutes in Monza last year. That didn't go all that well. The times weren't super encouraging. Where was he? Yeah, he was really well down the order in P16, more than a second off P1. But turned it around today. He was 5th, if I recall correctly. And I think more of where I'd expect to see him most weeks, 5th to 8th, 6th to 9th is probably where I see Kimi. I'm not sure for me, he's one of the lowest owned drivers in the game, and I think it's a lot of risk to put the 2X on a rookie driver in their first race in Formula One. So I think for the first week, unless you're really trying to aggressively build budget, Kimi is probably for me an avoid. Stroll or Doohan, 1 for 1, I'd probably go Stroll. Mazepin or Latifi, I would probably go Latifi. But these guys are all priced in negatives. If they were even in the game, the developers would make you get a benefit from owning them and not have to pay money for them. Stroll seems safer than a bunch of rookies. I'm kind of inclined to agree right now, Scott. I'm feeling Stroll. He's so low owned. Grant, I don't think you're in the minority. Oh, not the minority. I don't think you're the only one. What's your team looking like at the moment? I had it up before. That's where I'm at right now, but I think that could change in the next hour and a half. Where else are we? Overtake Central. If you're JB, if you're the JB, I think you are. Rank these: Stroll, Hulk, Hadjar, Bem, and Bortoletto. Bem last. Let's start with what's easy. Bem last. Hadjar second last. No, I don't want to. That's tough. So Bem last. Bortoletto first for his value. I'm going to put Stroll, Hulk, Hadjar. Yeah, okay. So Bortoletto, Stroll, Hulk, Hadjar, Bem, and I'm on the Stroll Kool-Aid right now. So Stroller Coaster. That's a great one. What was your biggest error last year? Mine was the V-carb hype, which is why I'm not going Williams. Yeah, that was probably my biggest mistake too, Toro. I had V-carb last year for the first 2 races, bought into that preseason hype and the free practice timing, and it got to a point where I should have just wildcarded in Saudi Arabia, but I was stubborn and I ran them for another week, and it just put me on the back foot again. Value also kind of took a hit there. So that's probably why the team on screen is what I'm likely going to be going for the first race. I don't know necessarily if I'm making the right decision, but in terms of Williams, I think you compare them to V-carb last year. I think Williams are a better fantasy asset. Well, I think they're also a better team and outfit right now than V-carb was 12 months ago. I think that was also coming off a season where Red Bull had won, what was it, like 20... They'd won all but one race, that 2023 season. And so they were giving parts to V-carb. I think a lot of people suddenly expected the V-carb to be the Red Bull of 2023, which it wasn't. I think it's a very different situation for Williams. I think they've been slowly building. There's kind of no sister team that they've taken components from. They've got 2 very good drivers. One that's a multiple race winner, and I think Sainz at 13 million could be honestly a really good route to building budget. And I'm not going to discredit him. That's why I have him second in my driver tier list for this weekend. It's just a matter of, because of his price tag, it becomes difficult to make or you'll have to make compromises elsewhere, whether that's in the constructor department or whether that's in your rookie drivers as well. So I think Williams is really good. I'm just not 100% sure it's for me right now, and I think there's a lot of PTSD from V-carb last year, so that's probably why I'm, let's say 70% on this lineup, 30% on the Williams hype train. I'll actually, this was let me reset the team, or let me pull in what I had up, and this is one reason why I don't think it's the end of the world if I start out with this team, because I could go in 3 moves. I know a -10 in the first race of the season is not ideal, but if Williams looked particularly good and I wanted to get them in instantly. In 3 moves, I could do McLaren, Williams, and I'd have 7.2 to upgrade. I think it's Hulkenberg. To Carlos Sainz. I mean, it wouldn't even need to be Hulkenberg. I could keep Hulkenberg. I could upgrade to what was he, 13.1. I could remove Bortoletto or Hadjar. So for argument's sake, let's just say I remove a rookie because I want that security. Like this looks like a really good lineup even for this weekend, because you've got one rookie as opposed to in the team I had before, which was Bortoletto, Hadjar, and then Kimi with the Mercedes Constructor. So you're going from, I think, a more reliable, not sure if it's well-rounded, but I think the point ceiling is going to be slightly higher than this one with the Mercedes Ferrari Constructor. But you're also running 3 rookies. In this team, you're only running 1 rookie. And I think with the wet weather and all that conversation around let's mitigate any kind of DNF risk to preserve team value heading into China, maybe this lineup actually does look quite good. So I think there's probably an argument for both at the moment. And the other one, why not McLaren's Constructor? I mean, if I go down this route, I probably would have McLaren as my Constructor tin. How likely is it to rain? It'll be 80% this weekend, so just keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to race through some questions so I'm not neglecting every single one of you. Why not McLaren's Constructor? I think I just answered that. Piastri, Russell, Mercedes for an early point gamble in the rain. I think that's perfectly fine. Kimi with Williams and McLaren. I've talked about Kimi. I'm not super ecstatic about having a rookie driver as my 2X. Is it worth having Red Bull for your Constructor? Alex asks. I'm not really sure. Red Bull's for me this weekend. Unfortunately, pit stop points just won't convince me. Triple Williams is pretty bold, but not for me. Thank you for the bow tie comments. Okay, experienced all of DNFs of Albon's last year. Yeah, I mean, I'm scarred from Albon's DNFs last year as well. I think he's really run a few of us pretty rotten. I don't think it'll be the same this year, though. I don't think Williams will have 12 DNFs like they did 12 months ago. I saw a really good question where it was Jennifer's question. There we go. So she was asking, why do you say Hulk's better than Doohan when Hulk can qualify well, but his car is worse and go backwards? I think for me, it's kind of going back to the argument around this weekend, less about positions gain. I think you could take 2 different schools of thought. If you're playing more for points, the upside with overtakes and positions gain, you probably want to be targeting a back marker that has potential to move forward up the grid. But if you're going for that reliability element, you want to avoid the DNFs in the wet, then I think someone like Hulkenberg for me over a Jack Doohan, over a Oliver Behrman, Gabriel Bortoletto, probably to me speaks a bit more in terms of that consistency. Have you seen Bortoletto FP3? Why do you think he's a good option if you can qualify P11 and P15? I don't know where Bortoletto would qualify. I think true pace of the Sauber is probably 16th to 20th. So it just depends if we get the Saubers qualifying really well. They might even out-qualify the Hasses, which is why Ocon to me is maybe being unfairly dismissed a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to go near Behrman, but there could be a situation where I go down the route of owning Esteban Ocon still potentially. Ocon Stroll or Alonso Hulkenberg? Alonso Hulkenberg. Ocon or Stroll? Stroll. Thoughts on Piastri, Russell, Mercedes, Williams? I think that's a really good option, but I think McLaren, as you say, Jovan's probably what I'd consider doing. What about Yuki? I'm not so sure if Yuki's for me right now. You look at his price, 9.6. Again, it kind of goes back to the conversation of if you move him down to a Stroll, you've got 1.5 million to upgrade or to get to Carlos Sainz, for example, in a team like this. I just think Yuki's probably an afterthought for me at the moment, and I felt as though the VCARB single lap pace yesterday was a little misleading, to be honest. will you be able to carry over the remaining cost cap? Yes. So if there's anything spare you have this week, you'll have that available next week, and ultimately whatever the price rises or drops are for the drivers that have a spot in your team. Alonso, not super high on Alonso right now, Damien. So yeah, probably not for me at the minute. I mean, I'd still take him over Lance Stroll, put it that way, even though Stroll was ahead of Alonso in free practice, or at least he was yesterday. What about in free practice 3? Was he ahead of Alonso? He was. Yeah. Wow. Stroll is strolling. I think I was about to say it could be Stroll's breakout season. It absolutely will not be Stroll's breakout season, but I think Stroll or Alonso, it's a toss up. I think if you 1 for 1, I'd probably take Alonso. Norris over Piastri in the wet. I'm not trying to. It's going to rain. The forecast is 80%, but does it get to a point where it rains in the morning, it's a wet track in the afternoon, but it's not too bad? Kind of like Canada last year, maybe. So, yeah, I'm not going to say Norris is an objectively better driver in the wet than Piastri, because he has had his moments in the past. Big Boss, Piastri, Sainz, Ocon, Doohan, Bortoletto. Yeah, I think that's fine. Maybe consider Hülkenberg and Stroll over Ocon and Doohan. Just a thought. Downside of going Sonoda down to Stroll is having Stroll. I think having Stroll is the downside. 2 times Stroll. Yes, Michael, absolutely. Everyone put the 2x on Stroll. Look, I'll tell you what, I'll do it right now. There you go. 2x's on Stroll. Won't be at the deadline. McLaren, Ferrari, no premium drivers. Probably not for me this week in MB. I think there are probably other ways to maximize your ceiling. I think it's one of McLaren or Ferrari, but not both. I'm going to refresh the team calculator, but usually people in the chat are saying sims are ready when before I even have time to check. But yeah, let's look at the sims, because we've talked a little bit about free practice times. We've talked a little bit about my team. I do think there's probably some time to spend on the simulations as well. And for those of you that don't know, f1fantasytools.com is this website. So they do points projections, simulations for all of the 30 assets after FP2 and what I understand FP3 as well. So check this out. I think it's the best tool in the F1 fantasy world. So before, the weekend, Ocon and Behrman to me look very viable, but I'd also say the points simulations, their projected points in the X points, expected points column, seems pretty conservative on some assets and maybe a little overstated on others. For me, I'd put Sainz probably closer to 15 points, probably 12. Let's just say, for argument's sake, let's double his 6 up to 12. I'd probably drop Ocon down to about 4. And I mean, I sometimes just roll with what the X points are, but I also like to tweak them a little bit. I'd probably put like Russell up to 20, and I'd drop Hamilton down to about 20 as well. And I'm just picking numbers out of the air. There's no correlation to overtakes, positions gained. Actually, I'd probably put Hamilton down to even a little lower than that. Max I'd probably put up a bit, but anyway, so I guess what this kind of does is, optimize the best combinations of drivers and constructors to build your best team. And if we were to do something like that using the numbers I've plugged in, it would still spit out a Ferrari, Mercedes, Piastri build, using obviously these 3 guys. Bortoletto is a fixture for me, but I do think that's kind of that reassurance. I don't necessarily always agree with the simulations, but that's the beauty of F1 fantasy. There's no one correct way to build our teams and score points. But this is more just I like to use as reassurance unless I'm absolutely struggling to find an objectively right team heading into the weekend. I think though the further down you go, like we look at the X points 173, if we dropped in Williams, which a lot of people are probably going to do this weekend, they come out as the best lineup comes out at 170.3. So 3 points difference. Like that's negligible. That's an overtake and a position gained. I think there's pretty it's pretty close, put it that way, for this weekend in terms of the simulation. So that's why I don't think there's necessarily a one best lineup for this particular race weekend with the weather as well. We'll go back to the chat and cover off a few more questions. Patrick, best team for budget? I would 100% go with two B tier constructors, like maybe a Williams and an Alpine. Throw in Norris and Piastri at the 2 driver slots. That's at least kind of what people are suggesting in the Fantasy Tools Discord. I'm not smart enough to understand the metrics for driving those particular price increases, but hopefully can wrap my head around it next week. But I think you'd probably want to go 2 B tier constructors if you want to build budget from the get-go, or just go all B tier assets. Thoughts on McLaren, Williams, Piastri 2x, Albon, Tsunoda, Hadjar, Bortoletto? I think that looks great. Russell 2x instead of Piastri. I want to talk about Russell in a second, so we'll come back to that one. I trust Max over anyone in the rain. I think I would too. It's just his price is not that nice. Ferrari, Mercedes, Oscar, love that. Love that. Matt Adams, NYC. That's where I am, or used to be. Thoughts on Verstappen 2x with an A tier constructor and Williams? I think that looks great. I'd almost back Max over Lando if it was torrential rain, but I'm really not so sure about the forecast. I think it clears up, or the likelihood of rain during the races come down pretty significantly, but it will rain on Sunday, just not sure when. Good night. Could you make your Excel spreadsheet available for download? I did away with my Excel spreadsheet last year, Edward, so probably have to find someone else to ask for that if you want to look at their modeling. I do enough modeling in my day job that I don't always necessarily want to be spending time in a spreadsheet on the weekends. I'm ignoring the Sims. They seem insane. I mean, I've heard a lot of different descriptions for the Sims. Insane's probably not one of them yet, but like I said, I don't think there's a one correct way to go down this route. So yeah, that's a fair enough assessment. Best alternative to have Williams as a constructor. Noel, I think if you're talking B tier constructor, I'd probably go Alpine. We'll go back to the team calculator after I just binned it off. They're pretty close. I guess the one drawback is Jack Doohan. I think the likelihood of a DNF for him is much higher than an Aston Martin. I think Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso's reliability in the wet probably on balance much better than the Alpine. And if you want to play that kind of conservative scoring game, then maybe take a punt on Aston Martin. I was speaking to the number 2 in the world last year, a couple of days ago, or a day ago, Raheem, and he was saying that Aston are really high up in his modelling just simply because Stroll and Alonso have got that reliability in the wet weather. Alrighty. I have 2 teams, Ferrari, Mercedes, Piastri, and then McLaren, Mercedes, Russell. Okay, this is a great time, Amelia, to transition into the George Russell discussion. Now, I had George Russell shortlisted on one of my teams in the lead up to free practice, and it was a McLaren, Mercedes, George Russell lineup with a bunch of backmarker fodder in there. If we go down here, we'll throw in these 2 guys. Old Faithful, probably Hulk. And I think it was a Haas. You could probably also go an Alpine. The one thing I didn't love about this is that you've got, in most cases, definitely the 3 lowest priced assets in the game. So it inhibits your maneuverability in future weeks. So if I wanted to go to, let's say after Australia, you weren't super keen on keeping Mercedes or keeping George Russell, you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't be able to get to Oscar, and even if you downgraded Jack to Ollie, you still wouldn't have enough to get Oscar. So that's why it's a slight inflexibility to in 2 moves go from Jack and Russell, Jack Doohan and George Russell to Oscar Piastri. It just doesn't work at the moment. Again, price changes might bump some assets up and drop other assets down, which makes it feasible, but right now isn't. I mean, the other route would be if you've got George in the slot there, we'll just put in Behrman for argument's sake. I think you could get to Ferrari and Oscar in 2 moves. Yeah, you could. So you could do something like that, but just think about kind of transfer flexibility. You don't have to map out every situation, but that's kind of why I have George Russell, McLaren, and Mercedes third on my list. Didn't have to dress up on the stream. I won't be in a tuxedo. I actually had an event during the week at the track, which was black tie. So that was why I thought we'd dust off the tuxedo. And Yogesh is asking, are you wearing trousers or shorts? Have a guess. It is board shorts. So business up top. Oh, sugar. Almost knocked the computer off. Business up top, party downstairs. It's 35 degrees Celsius, so no chance I'm wearing the dinner pants as well. I think we've answered a few questions. Let's see. We've got okay, cool. Just making sure the stream was all good on my side. So yeah, I think kind of right now where my team's at, an hour or so out from the deadline, I'm probably just going to stick with something like this. I'd love to obviously pick the brains of other people as well, because I'm not sure. Like, I think the beauty of fantasy discussion is that you do get a lot of different opinions on team structure, but it felt like last night, speaking to a couple of the content creators, that they are probably leaning either the Ferrari, Mercedes, Piastri or the McLaren, Williams combination. So that's where my head is kind of still at. And also, for me, like, put it this way, I wouldn't say risk averse, but I've never been someone that plays super aggressively in fantasy sports. I've played them for 15 years, since I was 15, 16 years old. And I've never really been someone that just plays the most aggressive game. I think you have to play aggressive. If you want to be number one in the world, you have to play aggressively. You have to take risks. You have to gamble on a driver that from oftentimes is low owned. I'm not necessarily going to be someone that always plays the most aggressively. And I think for me, I've been on the fence of pivoting away from this Piastri, Ferrari, Mercedes lineup for a few days. So if something went really pear-shaped with the alternate lineup, I'd be pretty pissed off with myself about it. Okay, I'll knock out a few more questions, guys, because I've been rambling and you're probably sick of hearing my voice just go non-stop about stuff unrelated to what's in the chat. Where are we? Where's the marker? Piastri, Alonso, Albon, Tsunoda, Hadjar, Ferrari, Williams. I think you'd probably, if you're going one A tier and one B tier constructor, I'd rather McLaren over Ferrari. And could you not get the signs? I guess you're going for the reliability. I'd probably miss Tsunoda. I feel like he's probably not where I go at the moment. No negative. Is anyone running no negative? Because I've seen a few people mention it in the chat, and I do think there's a possibility it could be wet. So I'm just going to throw up the McLaren Williams lineup because that was what I had before. But it is probably not what I end up on right now. I think no negative is fine. I'd rather save it for Brazil or a really wet race, a wet sprint race, because we had a few of those. Canada wasn't a sprint, but it was pretty chaotic. And then I think, Interlagos is always going to be pretty bad as well, weather-wise. 2x, probably not that much value in this one too. Yeah. The preferred Australian formal combo. Yeah, spot on. Shorts and a fancy shirt up top. Full on budget constructors or ride the fence. Mike's asking. let me have a think about that. I'll answer Damien's question first. Bortoleto and Doohan or Hulk and Behrman? Oh, it's like a good and a bad driver. I'd probably go Hulk and Behrman just because it's not two rookies. Full on budget constructors will ride the fence. Well, I think the beauty, Mike, is like, I'm stating the obvious to you, but like we get three teams, and I think one of my teams is 100% going to be budget building, and then the other is going to be more kind of what you're seeing on screen here, or a Ferrari, Mercedes, Piastri, as we were talking about. So I think team 3 for me would be like an Alpine and a Williams, and just like be so aggressive with trying to maximize budget in the first week. Final lock-in, Avril, I'm going to do that probably in about 45 minutes. But it's either this or the Piastri, Ferrari, Mercedes. Mercedes or Ferrari, 1 for 1. I'm going to say Ferrari. I know Hamilton looked pretty dreadful. Not dreadful. I just wasn't inspired by him running 8th. And yesterday was good for Lewis. Felt like, even though his single lap, you got to look at long runs as well. I think he was okay. I think he was about 5th or 6th in long runs. Yesterday was good, and then he was like nowhere again on the first practice session. I was out at the track yesterday, and yeah, it wasn't super inspiring, if I'm being honest. So yeah, there's obviously a bit to think about. Sorry, have I lost my marker? No, never mind. Sorry, I thought the stream froze. Hamilton for the rain. Yeah, I think Hamilton's great in the wet weather. I just think he's not quite. Again, I don't know as much about Lewis Hamilton compared to some of the other drivers fantasy-wise, because I've just not paid enough attention to him in the last few days. I think he's great in the weather, but I'm not sure. Like, the point people have made in favor of Lewis Hamilton for having him as their 2X this weekend is that he's going to, let's say, qualify around 6th, which is probably about what we did, somewhere between 4th and 6th, I think is probably where Lewis qualifies, right? And then we get to the wet weather, experienced driver. Ferrari is going to be good-ish. I don't say that with a lot of confidence because I just don't know where they stack up against Mercedes in the cool weather. But let's say he starts 6th. I could see a situation where he has a bunch of overtakes, come up to 4th, maybe qualify 7th, comes up to 4th or even 3rd, just because of that racecraft and experience in these conditions. I think, though, I'm more inclined to go with Piastri or Leclerc kind of around that price point. Prediction for the top 8 results in qualifying. Oh, God. I haven't even thought about the top 3. Let's start with pole position. I'm going to give that to Lando Norris. I put Lando Norris, Charles, George, Oscar. No, Charles, George. No, where's Max? You've got to put Max in the top 3, don't you? Lando, Max, George, Charles. Lando, Max, George, Charles, Oscar, Lewis, Carlos, Pierre. Top 8. Does Brazil have a sprint race again? It does. So I'm saving my no negative. The boys are in the chat. FaceTiming me while I'm on stream. Sorry, guys. I'll get back to you afterwards. I think the boys are at a long lunch. That's pretty funny. I'm waiting for the FP3 data as well. I like my rookie lineups. I do too, to be honest. And that's why I really like this one. Which rookie driver for the rain? Bortoleto for me. Definitely the most reliable. Already has that reputation in F2 last year of being kind of the end-to-end best on the grid. Bortoleto probably. Alrighty. Lewis was 2/10 off Leclerc today, 4/10 yesterday. Yeah, another reason why I'm not sold on him just yet. Alright, what if Lawson's car is not ready for qualifying? Well, if it's not, or it is, he'll get... Well, I'm not going anywhere near Red Bull this weekend, but if Lawson is not in for qualifying, he'll get a not classified -5, but they'll have the car ready, I'm pretty sure. Kimi, Sainz, Albon, Hulkenberg, Bortoletto, McLaren, Williams. I think that's fine. I'd probably go Luke over, instead of Kimi, I'd go for probably Oscar. I know triple Williams looks good, but you want someone that's probably a bit more reliable than Kimi as your 2X. Do you have your final team, or is it still in the air? It's either going to be this one, or we can do it in 2 moves, can't we? No, 3 moves. Yeah, so that was Ferrari, Mercedes, and my boy Isaac. That's probably my team. I'm curious to see what the other content creators are up to, because this is the first time in a long time I've done a deadline stream, and I'm obviously not going to copy the content creators. That's pretty unoriginal, but I was speaking to Tom yesterday. He had a pretty identical lineup on screen. I was speaking to Rain. I think he was between this and the Williams as well. Looking at, I think, Adam's teams what are we today, Saturday? I was looking at something he put up on Thursday. I think he had a pretty similar combination as well. And I think the general consensus is play it safe with your team 1, go for a bit more of a left field or punt type approach in team 2. All right, what else have we got? Let's get to your questions, guys. Is Max totally not an option? No, absolutely not. I think he's definitely an option. I think it's probably a coin flip for me between him and Lando. If you're running, let's go for a Max lineup. Let's play the game. Shailesh, I hope I've said that right. Jason, stop blowing up my phone. Let's try Max Verstappen. I think that would be... Look, let's just do something like this. For argument's sake, of course, I'm not suggesting it's a must-do. Again, I think the drivers that you choose here, the midfield drivers, are completely up to you. But you could do something like this. I'm not sure I'm confident enough to go the Red Bull Constructor. The pit stop points aren't convincing enough for me right now, and Liam Lawson hasn't looked comfortable at all. He has not driven on this track either. So if you're going for some Red Bull coverage, it's Max Verstappen for me. I think it's a 50-50, as I say, between him and Lando, just simply because Max is a, like-for-like better driver, but in a comparatively inferior car. Lando, Max, Piastri, Russell, Charles, Jason. If you're asking me to, I'm not sure if you're asking me to, if that's your top 5 in qualifying. I feel like that's a fair assessment. How about Max, 2X, Sainz in drivers and constructors, Ferrari, Williams? I mean, yeah, that looks fine. I think that was what this person said. But you have Carlos. I mean, you could do that. What does that leave you though? 6 million? Yeah, I mean, you'd have to, I don't think you can afford that, can you? Anyway, not sure I'd be going no McLaren. You're a brave person to bet against McLaren this weekend. Leclerc or Norris? Norris. Sims are out. Mike, you're a legend. On the ball as always. Sauber and Russell or Sainz Williams. I'd go Sainz Williams. I can't bring myself to stick Lance Stroll in the team. Hey, I can't either. Oh, this is spicy. Oh, this is real spicy. Okay. McLaren and Williams at the top. Oh dear. Oh, I'm having head loss right now. I do not know what to do. I thought it wasn't going to be this obvious. Okay, so these guys are at 195. Oh, I'm losing my mind. Anyone else, or is it just me? Oh, this is not what I wanted. An hour before teams are due for submission, and I'm in absolute... Oh, my God. I'm losing my marbles. Okay, so... Vlad, I've had my lineup for probably 20 minutes, but I'll put it up just for you. Here we go. Sorry, we'll go back to the Sims just quickly. Rewind, please, if you want to see my lineup, but this is it. Okay. Putting it on the screen for all of about 10 seconds. This is where my head is at right now, but just from what we saw on the Sims, I am absolutely losing my mind. So I'll give you guys 5 seconds, and then I'm going to dash over to F1 Fantasy Tools. Oh my goodness. Sorry. All right. Back into the team calculator, ladies and gentlemen. Oh God. Oh. Does that change, before I make a decision for my team, does that change anyone's perspectives for their team? Were they not on Williams and are they now going Williams? Or or were you already on Williams and this doesn't change your point of view? Okay, so what I'm going to do first is we're going to look at the Williams, McLaren, and Piastri combinations, which I think is the best trio of assets to own if you're going down this route. The only reason I think Albon's in here is because his PPM relative to Sainz's would be better. Yeah, I'm not... Again, like the Fantasy Tools guys are absolute legends. They've done so much, but I'm not sure Sainz is going to Albon is going to outscore Sainz. I'm just not sure that happens. Oh, I'm rattled. We'll be fine. I'm not too worried. Knowing me, cowardly F1 fantasy manager, I'll probably just stick with Oscar, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Yeah, how is Ocon in there? I do not know. I think Behrman is Behrman. Yeah, holy Behrman. See you later, mate. I think Ocon's he's experienced. I think that's probably what's playing in his favor. Okay, so we've got a McLaren, Piastri, Williams build. Let's get back on the straight and narrow. They're coming in at around, with any combination of midfield drivers, around 190. Let's call it 190 to 195. That's kind of the bandwidth of points we're working with. If I was to go down a road where I stick with Ferrari and Mercedes, that comes out at the best situation about 10 points less. I thought it was going to be less than that. I did think it was going to be less than that. Okay. I think, look, let's change. Everyone's saying Ocon is middling. Let's change his number to like 3. That'll put him down. Does that recalibrate? No. I think it's again based on like best combination. Or let's just, I tell you what, let's just exclude Esteban Ocon for all of the hate. I ain't putting Stroll. I mean, people like him for his wet weather. Okay, so reading through the chat, everyone seems pretty bullish on Williams and McLaren. And McLaren, 76.3. 76.3 expected points. That's bonkers. For a non-sprint race weekend, that is... I mean, it's probably above average, I would say. I'd say it's probably between 65 and 80 points for a top constructor. Most race weekends, 70 to 80 points. I still feel like that's quite bullish. Okay, so let's cover off everyone's questions in the chat. Sainz is not the best in rain. I don't know what Sainz's history is like in the rain. The only driver I seem to have any understanding of their wet weather performance is Lance Stroll, the window licker. Piastri, highest points of all drivers. I mean, I again think that's probably a little bullish. I'm not so sure. I think Lando 1-to-1 is better, but I've always kind of been on Oscar as my 2x, so that doesn't change much for me. McLaren Williams, Oscar over McLaren Williams Max. I don't know. I think I'm going to chase the upside with Oscar. I think Max is better than 18 points. I think he's probably closer to about 25. 22 to 25. But I think McLaren, yeah, a lot of folks really going in on McLaren. I think that's fair. Ali's loving the McLaren Williams, but Grant's not. Williams said he's had this team locked since FP2. Oh, someone watches RPM, if you know the window liquor reference. Oscar driver of the day. I think if he doesn't win, if he has a really good race, P2 even, decent driver of the day shot, I think Lewis would be in with a chance too. But Lewis to me is the kind of driver that, unless he is top 2, top 3, not sure quite that he's in the conversation. All right, so it sounds like quite a few of us are on the are in on the McLaren Williams train. Oh god, there's definitely a couple of people who watch RPM in the chat. Love to see that. I'm not. I promise you, I'm not, because I'm wearing suspenders. I'm not trying to copy rocket powered Mohawk. But he did have his first video out today, so if you know or follow RPM on YouTube, definitely worth a watch. Yeah, I think, I don't know about Williams and McLaren. Let's go back to, is there anything, let's see if there's any simulation data on Twitter. Big F1 Big Data, an absolute magnet for information. I don't think he's got anything. I don't think he's got anything yet. What about formula data analysis? And I think if there's nothing here from, I forget his name, but nothing here either. And what about, who's the other one? F1 telemetry. Let's try that. All great resources for team data. No one's got new telemetry analyses up, so we're going in blind. We are going in blind. If you go triple Williams, you have to stick for 3 weeks due to the algorithm. Yeah, I think you do. I think you kind of do, because there might be people watching that are a bit more across the fantasy tools price change algorithm or price change model. But from what I was reading, most assets won't go up all that much, or some may even go down in price this week. Please do not ask me why. And then over China and Japan and beyond that, the price changes for drivers and constructors tend to normalize. And so I think that if you're carrying B tier assets into this weekend, you probably want to hold them, assuming they don't DNF, to obviously make the most of those price increases. Do a poll. Great suggestion, Grant. Great suggestion. How the hell do I'm such a dinosaur. Start a poll. Okay. I was like, how do I start a damn poll? Ask a question. Williams, McLaren, Piastri. What's the poll? What's the poll? Let's just do, will you own Williams and McLaren? Let's start with that one. Start poll. Great suggestion. Okay, now to cover off some of your questions. I have Hadjar at 1.6 expected points. Do they? Oh, they are not high on Isaac Hadjar. Oh no, what did I do? I changed something. Warning, the stream's current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. Oh dear, something has got to be fixed for next stream. Apologies if it's super laggy, guys. Can do McLaren, Williams, Piastri. I think that sounds great. Mercedes, Ferrari plus rookies, or Williams, McLaren plus good drivers. Well, I think it depends on the other drivers. I'm assuming, Ted, you're going Williams, McLaren, Piastri, Sainz. Sainz is maybe more likely to overqualify and drop places. I think, yeah, that's probably a fair point, Brian, which is why I suspect that's why Albon's, slightly higher up. Please tell me why you put Stroll in. I discussed Lance Stroll quite a way back. That was just to do with his wet weather track record, pretty sound results. I know Brazil probably the outlier, but I like Stroll for that kind of experience over rookie drivers. Oscar greater than Max. Yes, I agree. Why do you think Albon is coming up so much? Because I think I just answered that, but I think it's boiling down to the fact that, I'll go back to the free practice times. He's sitting below, I think he was below Sainz in all of them. So P6. Oh. Albon was behind Sainz in all of them, because Sainz was P2 and he was. So I think to that point, Albon's probably going to qualify a bit lower but make up a few extra positions in the race. First time fantasy players since rain is predicted: McLaren, Williams, Max, Ocon, Hulk, Alonso, Bortoletto. I think that's perfectly fine. By the way, you can go McLaren and quadruple Williams with 2 times Antonelli. Quadruple Williams? Quadruple Williams. Well, you're putting James Vowles in the seat as well. I think I could probably do triple Williams. I'm not sure if I've got the minerals. Let's play around. Let's play around with this McLaren Williams team. Oh my god, I'm probably now. Oh god, what have I done? What have I done? Okay. Deep breaths. So I think kind of the building blocks of a Williams McLaren team is probably something like this. Obviously the Sims favor Alex Albon, and I had this team up before. I'd probably start with something like we had the dish, not the dish liquor, the window liquor. In here, I think that's probably where I would go myself, just for that reliability. But let's see, what does triple? You couldn't go triple Williams, could you? No, there's no way you could go triple Williams unless you're running. Unless you're running Kimi, and I'm not doing that. No way in hell. Absolutely not. You could not pay me to run triple Williams. I'm sorry. I'd run Albon or Sainz, but you're not. I mean, again, this could age terribly, but you could not pay me to run triple Williams if Antonelli is in the 2x slot. So I'm thinking, and the poll says 70%. So let's do a new poll. I think 70% you own Williams and McLaren. I'll do one more poll. Start a poll is, Albon, Sainz. Add option. Both. Who will be in your team? Start poll. All right, let's lock in, Rob. Let's lock in. I've been a bit unfair to the chat. And thank you, Scotty, for confirming that the stream is going all right with the audio. All right, so Williams, McLaren, Piastri, Hulk, Sainz, Stroll, Hadjar, David's suggesting. I think that's really good. Williams is a must given today's performance and reliability on both drivers. I think that is a huge sticking point for what makes them so valuable this weekend. Do you have a Discord so you can see my team submissions? I don't have a Discord, unfortunately. What about Ferrari, McLaren? No, I don't think so. I mean, no, that's not fair. I think Ferrari and McLaren are fine. It just means you're going for a Antonelli or a Lawson in that 2x slot, which I don't love because they're rookies. Lawson hasn't had a great free practice. Antonelli's a bit untested. Do I play AFL fantasy? No, I don't. I have played NRL fantasy, but I can't say I follow the footy in Oz all that much. From Sydney originally, so follow the Swans, but I wouldn't say all that closely. Wouldn't this top projected lineup in the sim trap you for weeks though? I think it would. Yeah, I think this. What is the sim saying again? Okay, what have we got on the poll? Everyone's vibing Carlos Sainz. 77% of people saying Sainz, 20% are saying Albon, 3% are going for both. So why don't let's try and override this system. So we had 192 with Albon, 189, almost 190 with Sainz. This team, this is the money shot. This team, McLaren, Williams, Piastri, Sainz, Stroll, Hülkenberg, Hadjar. Had you asked me, would this be my team 2 days ago, I would tell you you're laughing. But you get an experienced driver in Nico Hülkenberg, Lance Stroll, who I wouldn't ordinarily back, but has a decent track record in the wet, and then you've got to choose from either Bortoleto or... Oh, hang on. I just had that up, didn't I? Sorry, I'm losing my mind. So you could go Hadjar or Bortoleto. So I really like this Team 1, but it is, I guess, a situation where, as I said, I think if you want to go down the McLaren-Williams route, it's possible. I'm not shooting down Williams, but I think, there's a reason to be bullish on Williams, but they are also a midfield car. Like, let's say, for instance, right now they're 5th, for argument's sake. It feels like that's the general consensus. Do they close the gap to Mercedes? Are they on par with Mercedes? Will they pass Mercedes or whoever the 4th team is? It could be Red Bull by week 5 or week 10. Will they be kind of stuck within that kind of 5th place in the Constructor? I'm not really sure. So that's why I think with the top 4 teams, like we saw last year with how open it is, any one week Mercedes could be the 2nd best team, or Ferrari could be the best team, or whatever it is. I don't see Williams really breaching more than 5th in the Constructors right now. And so that's why I'm probably, if I'm going down the Williams route, playing for budget gain as well as kind of that double up on McLaren as well. But I'll get back to the chat, but Sainz, 76% of you guys want to go Sainz. Okay. So owning people has been out. I think my words were maybe misconstrued. I've lost my marker in the chat. Bear with me 1 second, everyone. I've Albon, Sainz. I think the synergy with Sainz is going to be great. I think also if you want to go Albon and Sainz, just get the Williams Constructor. I think there's also nothing wrong with that. What about McLaren Ferrari with Albon, Alonso, Stroll, Doohan, Hülkenberg? Who's your 2X driver? Is it Alonso? I'm not super excited about a 2X driver that's not in one of the teams. In one of the top teams. Why Williams and not Mercedes? Well, it's, I think, more the fact that you can do more with your budget by bringing in Williams and bringing also in Sainz than having 4 midfield or back marker drivers. With Albon, you can run Stroll, Ocon, and Hülkenberg. Well, that's William a great option I didn't think about. So if we were to downgrade Carlos to Albono, that would mean you can get up to Esteban. That's 0 rookies. That's pretty nice. I was 40 minutes as well, guys. Just under 45 minutes until the team lock deadline for the first race of the season, and I am no closer to making up my mind than I was 2 hours ago. Am I insane if I don't go for Williams? I feel like I am. I genuinely feel like I am. Hey Richard, how are you, mate? Apparently they factored in rain history to algorithm. That's interesting. Have Fantasy Tools provided any notes on Twitter? I should probably put my team on Twitter for the folks that can't make it into... Or did they leave notes? Maybe they left notes here. FP3, dry quality, dry race, baseline, and some historical adjustments for rain. Interesting. Okay, interesting. Doesn't Norris have a better chance of winning driver of the day? I don't think he does anymore compared to the first half of last season. Let's go through the statistics for driver of the day last year. But if I'm not mistaken, he really lost that stranglehold on driver of the day that I just don't think will persist this year. Yeah, since he won in Zandvoort, Lando didn't win it again last year after winning 6 in 7 between China and Austria. Austria, he didn't even finish the race. So I don't think driver of the day is for me something that Lando is going to be quite as dominant with this time around. All right, where are all the questions? My final: McLaren, Williams, Piastri, Sainz. Solid. Sorry, in English, do you think Williams will be great with rain? I think they'll be. The drivers are experienced, so that's kind of the benefit of the doubt I'm giving to them. Why is there no conversation on Alpine? I think there has been a conversation on Alpine, but I think just with how good Williams has looked, it's really hard to discount them over a team where you've got Pierre Gasly, really good driver. I really love Pierre. Jack, I can't say a bad word about a fellow Australian, but there is going to be some degree of risk with running a rookie in the Constructor, and the same goes for Kimi in Mercedes. So that's probably why I think a lot of people are comfortable with Williams for this week. Having Ferrari Mercedes gives you easier options to swap. That's kind of, David, that's why I'm not fully set on a team like this. So I'm probably still, to a lot of people's dismay, probably 60% Ferrari Mercedes with Isaac and Gabby B. And then let's just say for this week I go this route. I have the wild card. I have the flexibility to go from this team to, oh goodness, this and Carlos. The problem is that, that's a -10 if I went to do that for the sprint race in China. I also have the option to go limitless in China, but I think the thing is, if you really feel confident about using your limitless chip in China, this team has a higher propensity to make more money because you've got more B-tier drivers and constructors in the team. If you're running Ferrari and Mercedes, you've got that extra A-tier driver that's likely, A-tier constructor that's likely to go up less in value. So I think there's a possibility where if you're using limitless with the Ferrari-Mercedes combination, it's probably not going to gain quite as much value as, say, the team on screen here. And keep in mind, as if you're not familiar, limitless, the price changes that your team gets is going to be what the team for the previous race was, if that made sense. Okay, back to the chat. Leclerc win will be great. Oh, it would be great. Do I see it happening? Maybe not. Why am I in a tuxedo? Because it's the first deadline stream of the season. Am I going to be in a tuxedo every single race week? Absolutely not. But I wanted to dress up just a little bit, simply because, and the bow tie isn't even straight, simply because it's nice to look nice. What's your final team? It's probably, if the deadline was right now, I'm still probably going Ferrari Mercedes, as boring as that sounds. It could be, yeah. It could be, yeah. I'll still have whatever the alternate is on the other screen, though. I just feel like I've been burnt before by running a C-tier constructor. My bow tie is having an emotional breakdown at the moment. Piastri, Albon, Alonso, Hulkenberg, Hadjar, Bortoleto rather than Ocon and Stroll. I think that looks great. I don't want to be stuck with Williams in China. No, I don't either. Which is, if I went with Williams this week, I'd be thinking about limitless more seriously in China. Put it that way. I think if you're using limitless, you probably want to have a budget, as I said, a budget gaining team during that week where you've got start poll. I want to ask you guys a question. Are you using limitless in China? Start poll. Oh god, I lost the chat. Here we go. Picking Williams is brave. They qualify well, but they could be overtaken by Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull. Yeah, I think that's the reason why I kind of like this team more, to be honest with you. Signs or Albon? Signs. Good morning. Really excited for this season. Your passion for fantasy got me into. Oh, thanks, Nikos. That's really sweet. I probably nerd out a bit too much, to be honest, on F1 fantasy, but I do love it, and so for that reason, I'm probably just on that fantasy grind, you know. Bortoletto or Hadjar? Bortoletto. Stroll over Ocon? Yes, Stroll, just because he's. It's less about Stroll and more just the Haas is absolute BS right now. For budget, Piastri, Russell, Sainz, Albon, Ocon, Williams, Alpine. Sure, I think that could work. If you want to go pure budget though, Yosa, if you want to go 1A tier driver and just B tiers the rest of the way, but if you want to balance, I think that team's perfectly good. Why Stroll? Talked about this a bit at the start, Carmo, but I think it's just because Lance has a bit more experience, I think, over a lot of these rookies. So before it would have been Ollie Behrman in this Lance Stroll slot, and I think his experience in the wet weather in the past years, again, I've said Interlagos probably a bit of an outlier. It's a slower car, a slower speed. Let's go back to the tweet. I'll give you some context to the reasoning for Lance Stroll, although delusional as it might seem. But this is my Lance Stroll reasoning. Maybe on Limitless in China. So we've got interesting. Only 37% of people currently on Limitless in China. I'm locked in McLaren, Williams, Sainz, and Piastri. I'm in the UK. Not sure I'll stay awake any longer. Fair enough, Matt. Lock in your team, go to sleep, and then hopefully stay enough. You can stay up enough for tomorrow for the race. Limitless Wolf is a chip that allows you to go unlimited budget for the 5 best drivers and constructors, or any driver and constructor. It's in the game rules, but it is one of, if not the most powerful chip in the game, and it's best used on a sprint race weekend, which is next weekend. Let's say you want to go McLaren and Williams. Let's say I do. Almost 1,000 people watching and benefiting from the content and only 150 likes. Oh, Radio Paddock, thank you so much. You're one of my OGs in the comment section, so thank you. Very sweet. Since my team won... Oh, I missed a question. Oh, Rain, how are you, mate? I appreciate you. Oh God, I've lost my mark. Since my team won is Window Liquor... Window Liquor hater, I have to refuse on principle. That's funny. Ocon, Stroll, or Hulk? I like Stroll the most. Hulkenberg probably next. How about McLaren and Ferrari for constructor? I'm not so stoked about that. Charles 2x over Oscar with McLaren and Williams. I'd still prefer Oscar. Bortoletto, I think. What's the best team case scenario until China? Oh, sorry, I haven't even got the team calculator up, and I've got to lock my team in. I think, guys, I'm going to be a coward. You're going to hate me for it. But I'm probably going this team. And that's super boring. But I feel as though I was burnt by VCarb last year. I'm not saying Williams are bad. I think Williams are a really good option. And they'll be my team too. But I'm like probably 70% on this and 30% on McLaren Williams. Audrey, no, I'm doing 3 teams. I don't want to hang on. Let me try and do something. I don't want to change this screen because the alignment on the stream completely cooks itself. But this is my second team. So the Oscar, Piastri, Carlos Sainz, McLaren, Williams, and my third team is a bit more of an aggressive budget building Alpine, Williams, Sainz, double McLaren drivers. This is more of an experimental team. The top 2 teams are probably more my target for global ranks. I might even change. Oh no, I might even change Stroll out of one of these teams to maybe a Haas driver. All right, Hulk or Hadjar. Reliability. If you're going for reliability, Kawako, I'd go Hulk. If you want a bit more of an exciting pick, I'd go Hadjar. Williams train has absolutely left the station down. Absolutely. How does Mercedes Russell Piastri 2X look for curiosity? I think that looks perfectly fine, but I'm assuming if you've got Russell and Piastri, that you might have Williams in that second constructor slot. Alrighty. I'm struggling between going for Norris, McLaren, and Williams, or Ferrari, Mercedes, Piastri. Callum, I mean, me too. If you see me have a mental breakdown on stream for the last 90 minutes, I don't think you're the only one going through this dilemma. But the beauty of F1 Fantasy is that you get 3 teams to make. They all go into the global league. Team 1 can only win the prizes, but I do think that that gives you a bit more optionality. But Team 1 will be the one I probably talk about most races, just because it's kind of how it always has been for me. Carlos or Albon, brother? I need to know. Carlos, mate. Carlos. And I've got my driver rankings up on the top right, guys. So, I mean, use that as a yardstick. I will say the Sims have probably thrown that off a little bit since. Ferrari and Racing Bulls, not super convinced on RB as a constructor. What happened with Ferrari, Mercedes, Piastri? It's still here, Edu. It's still here. Have not changed my thought process at all. So that's kind of the situation. Please show your first team. This is it. Oh, bloody hell. We'll go back to this screen because the alignment's better. This is my first team. Stroll looks pissed. Alonso looks pissed off already. Is this in the... I feel like it's kind of... Do I go Ocon instead of Stroll? It's really not much of a... It's not a deal-breaking decision, put it that way. All right. I'm in a friends league, only one team allowed. What would you do? It's hard. I think if you're confident Williams can continue to build over the course of the season, then I think go Williams for the season. But I think this is probably a bit more of a well-rounded team. You get Hülkenberg, Stroll. I'd probably, if you're playing for the season, would you be more on Ocon maybe? Hope Haas can turn it around. Hülkenberg or Behrman? Or go Hülkenberg. Would you be using Limitless in China for Team 1? Probably not. I'm feeling right now it's probably more going to be Miami, and hope that weekend, once we've got a better idea of budget building and the pricing model, I think the inflation, or again, I'm going to butcher the explanation of this. Hopefully by next week with team selection, I can explain it a bit better. But prices and their inflationary adjustments week to week will be steeper or probably more normalized after the 3rd race, and we have a 3-race average. So for that reason, I'm thinking just kind of stick this out for a couple more weeks in the lead up to Miami, structure the team to be more budget building focused, and then as a result, hopefully carry those budget gains through the Miami Limitless weekend. All right, back to the chat. Are you not tempted by Max? No, unfortunately not. Just don't have the budget, unfortunately. Swapping Stroll for Ocon, not an option at all. No, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. I may well do that. I'm kind of either on the window licker or Esteban Ocon right now. I don't see a situation where I go with a Jack Doohan, an Ollie Behrman. I think for the rain, Hülkenberg. Double Sauber is kind of wild, don't you think? But that's where I'm at right now. G'day, Fraser. How are you, mate? Stroll is better than Ocon. Maybe. Piastri. Oh, I keep losing my chat. Piastri, Sainz, Alonso, Hadjar, Bortoleto, McLaren, Williams. Sounds great. Albon, Ocon, Stroll, Hülkenberg. I'd pick of those 4 Albon. I've got... Shane, how are you, mate? FPL veteran in the chat. I got Ocon. Stroll hasn't driven much this season, and it's Lance Stroll. Of course, it's Lance Stroll. That's the beauty of Lance Stroll. How would Limitless strategy work? Lion, I'll come back to you on that in my team selection video next week. Do you think it's worth running... I've got to lock my team in as well. Less than 30 minutes, guys. Get them locked in. Do you think it's worth running Albon over Sainz, considering you can run Alonso over a Stroll? Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's a really good option for reliability. Why did you choose better constructors over better drivers, and why kick Sauber? For Sauber, because of their price, and they'll probably be starting towards the back, so they've got more upside for positions gained and overtakes. For the constructors, a good baseline of points. I think Williams will have that too, but for right now, I'm more inclined to just go with something safe that I'm comfortable with. Ali, yeah, I think McLaren Williams Piastri looks awesome. Would you go Albon, Alonso, or Stroll Sainz? I think, did I answer that? The Sims say Albon, Alonso, but I'm saying Stroll Sainz. But, I've got plenty of questions wrong in the past. I got to race through these questions. Welcome to the chat, Billy. Am I doing fan amp this year? No, I'm not. I'm doing more with Formula One and with this channel this year. So I'm wishing Adam, Terry, and Zach all the best over on fan amp. I think they're on a stream now. So if you're sick of me, I'm sure you could check them out. Why Piastri? Surely the rain he means he gets overtaken. No, I'm confident Oscar's in with a good weekend. I would never put Stroll in fantasy. Look, I've said that before and I've gotten absolutely burnt. Hulk or Behrman? Hulk. How do you feel about Yuki? Not a fan. Ocon or Stroll? Stroll. What about, well, Stroll right now, but it could be Ocon. What about Alonso? I think it depends. I think Ali asked the question of Alonso and Albon versus Stroll and Sainz. It's a toss-up for me. Our team's already locked in. No, we have. I need to get a countdown timer on the screen for you guys, but we have team lock deadline in 25 minutes. To lock your team in, all you do is put the 5th driver or whatever slots. The team's already locked for me. This is the team I had before. I'll do a different one. So, like, for example, if I wanted to do Esteban Ocon, I just put that in, hit the continue and confirm. But this page is kind of wacky, so I'm going to go back to this one. How do you feel about Williams? I think we've talked about that a bit, but I think they'll do well. Is McLaren worth it? Absolutely, mate. Jeremy, great to have you in the chat as always, boss. Big supporter of the channel. Can't thank you enough. Love your content, man, and it's great to share my mental breakdown. Yeah, I've had a couple of mentee bees, haven't I? But it's it's funny fantasy, isn't it? It's funny. As you can tell, I'm leaving this slot open. I'm not sure if it's Stroll or Ocon. But I might just excuse me for a second. I'm gonna get my tweet ready to draft because let's just say I'm probably gonna get a bit of not backlash because I think this is a perfectly fine team, but I think I'm going to stick with this and then, if I really am wrong, then I'll just either wild card or I'll take a -10 next week. What should I do? Hadjar or Stroll? 1 for 1, I'd probably go tricky. Hadjar's an interesting one. Okay, excuse me for all of about 2 seconds while I answer questions while typing out this tweet. What should I do, Hadjar or Stroll? I'm going to say Stroll. I'm going to say Stroll. Is Merck that much safer than Williams with Kimi? I'm not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. All right. Hadjar all the way. How about Alonso, Williams, Ferrari, Sainz, Piastri? I think that's fine. Put Sainz in. I can't with this team, unfortunately. So for the Friends League, we are leaning Ferrari, Mercedes, Piastri. Because I was thinking McLaren. Yeah, I think McLaren Williams is fine. Stroll or Hadjar? I think I said Stroll, didn't I? Doohan or Hulkenberg? Hulkenberg. What about Racing Bulls? Not for me. All right. How are the other streams going? Keen to see what everyone else has landed on. But guys, less than 20 minutes. Drop a like on the stream. I'll be here until 5 to 4 my time, so for the next 20 minutes. But yeah, drop a like on the stream if you really, really enjoyed it. If you don't, then don't. There's no obligation to. But right now, I'm thinking a like would be nice. Hopefully, I've said some things that have helped guide your decision making and not seen me absolutely bottle it in the first week of the season. But let me fire this off. So excuse my rudeness. goes in Australia. I'll do a poll so I don't act like I'm antisocial for the entire stream. Nico Hulkenberg or Isaac Hadjar. Guillaume is asking. I'd probably go Hulkenberg. Doing a Hulkenberg. Fan Amp are not getting on board the Williams boat. I spoke to Adam a little bit about this. He wasn't so excited about Williams. I think that's fair enough. I'm more convinced by today, I'll be honest. I really think this is a 40-60 or a 50-50 decision to me. And like everyone in the chat, I think 60% of you guys think Williams McLaren is what is the play for this weekend. I think it's a really good option. But I'm confident this can get the job done. Yeah, sure, Kimi is a rookie, but in reality, I think I'm okay with this decision. I think if I went McLaren Williams and it backfired, I'd be really pissed off. If I went down this route and it backfired, I think I'd be a bit more at peace with the decision. Thanks, Vex. Really appreciate the nice words. I missed the start of the stream, but a tux for qualifying. Is this a theme? No, it isn't. It's just for the first race of the season, Robert. So thought I'd treat everyone to my Sunday best on a Saturday. Do we have to wear a black tie for every qualifying session? I'll be wearing probably a black suit after half my team DNFs in the rain, but right now just vibing. What if I was to just pick for this weekend and not change for the entire season? I'd probably go a double premium constructor. Ferrari and Merc or McLaren Williams. I'm going Ferrari Merc, but the majority in the chat say McLaren Williams. I'm afraid Hulk is going to qualify high and drop back. I think that's a possibility, Jason. That's kind of what I'm prepared to accept, but I'm also probably more playing risk for prevention with Hulk than I am playing for points. And if it's between him and Behrman, for example, I'm taking Hulkenberg every day of the week. That's the 1-for-1 swap I've made. Gasly worth a punt? Evan asks. Yes, but I think there's probably other options like Albon and Sainz. Some cryptic messages in the chat. Why are my expectations for Lewis so low? They're not so low. I just think McLaren look like a better team, and at Piastri's price, it kind of makes the decision for me. All right, 20 minutes. Time to get the team up. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to fire this up. My fantasy team went back and forth over which lineup I should land on. Ended up on Piastri, Mercedes, Ferrari after a mental breakdown trying to decide on stream. Let's see how this goes in Australia. To the moon. Okay. Time to screenshot the team, put it on Twitter, and answer some questions. What do you think of McLaren? Who asked that? Mungo asked, what do you think of McLaren, Williams, Piastri, Sainz, Hulkenberg? Love it. Huge fan of that lineup. Piastri, Verstappen, Sainz, Aston Williams. Probably not 2 C-tier constructors, to be honest. I'm going to lock in Stroll. Last poll of the day, guys. Last poll of the day. Stroll. Oh, no. What did I do? Stroll, Ocon. Who should I choose? The window licker or the French connection? Not even sure that's a real nickname for Ocon. I'll leave the decision up to you guys. I'll put my fate in your hands. Seth, I think the poll will probably answer the question I ultimately decide to do. Sainz, Williams, and Stroll, I think that's fine. Is Russell worth a punt? I think he actually does look quite good on single lap. Let's see if that translates to the race. Is Albon's starting price too high, though? I guess it depends on what Williams look like. When will you lock your team in? Eminem is asking. I'm locking it in right now. I think I just locked it in. Yeah. Okay. Let me crop the image, post it on Twitter. I mean, there's probably a better way to do this. Okay. The team the team you're seeing on screen is the team I'm likely going with for my team 1. But the window licker is only 59% and Ocon is 41%. So, for those of you that don't get the reference to Lance Stroll, watch Rocket Powered Mohawk on YouTube. Okay, the team is up on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. Haas had 0 race pace. I think it had negative race pace, Seth. when will you lock your team? Team's locked now. Final draft, McLaren, Mercedes, George, perfectly fine. What about Piastri, Alonso, Sainz, McLaren, Williams? Love that. Does a driver or a team need to gain value? Both will gain value just depending on their points. Mate, how do you see Verstappen, Piastri, Sainz, Stroll, Bortoleto, and Aston Williams? Probably a little spicy for my liking. To go Aston Martin and Williams. Roll with Stroll, roll with Stroll, roll with Stroll. Please show us all three teams. Okay, yep, I will show you all three teams, all three teams, all three teams. Okay, so if Rob is the new Bond, then Toto would make a great main villain. I'm not quite sure about that, but thank you for the compliment, if that's even meant to be. So this is my team one. I'm 99% locked on this, guys. And the stream's not ending. I'm just going through my logic. This is my team one. I'll go through the decisions and please, opine in the comments if you disagree with anything. I love Piastri as a 2X. Coming off a contract extension, I think and the strength of McLaren, a lot of good omens for this weekend. I think the fact is consistency last year, double-digit points in every single race, completed every lap, 2 wins, can't go past him for my 2X. Hulkenberg, Stroll in the rain, loving that kind of reliability I'm getting from both of them. I do think Stroll's probably the most contentious one, and it's 50-50 between him and Ocon in the poll. That's just because I think his wet weather driving is a little bit more reassuring. Am I super stoked with Lance Stroll? I wouldn't say I am, but I wouldn't be either with Esteban Ocon. So I'm at peace with that. Bortoleto, Hadjar, in the article I wrote for Formula One this week, just talked about their positions to gain from the back, their overtakes. Hadjar looked really good in FP2, pretty impressed about that. And Bortoleto, the most reliable driver in F2 last year. So I think he's must-own in terms of the budget driver category. Ferrari, Mercedes, great little points floor, if I can get that right. So I think they're really good. A nice little pairing to obviously enable Piastri in that 2X slot. Now let's go down to this lineup here. I'm going to change Stroll out of this team because I've got him in team one. A little bit too much spice for my liking. Let's throw in Ocon. So we'll lock that in here. Confirm changes. Okay, so for team two, which a lot of you in the chat are running, Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz, again, already talked about Oscar Piastri. Sainz and Williams, the simulations on Fantasy Tools, can't go past them. I'll bring them up one more time for you guys. Really favoring the Williams to do well this weekend. I've kind of manually overridden Sainz, even though Albon is projected to score more points, which I think comes from Albon probably going to underqualify and gain positions, whereas Sainz might be around 6th, 7th, 5th, 6th, 7th, kind of just sit there. But I do think in reality, Williams are a really good asset to gain value. I think assuming this trend of consistency continues for the next few races, I think Williams and Sainz could skyrocket into the 15s, 15 millions or so. So if you're getting it on the ground floor now, I'm a huge fan. Already spoken about the Saubers. Ocon's in there more just for the experience in the wet to avoid going for a Doohan or a Hadjar or a Behrman. And then McLaren Constructor, 30 million, I think it's probably not value for money, but I think you know what you're kind of getting when you're paying that kind of money. So yeah, that's my logic between the two teams that I think will do quite well this weekend. There's also a lineup I've talked about, but not in my team at the moment, where it's a Russell, McLaren, Mercedes. I don't mind that. I think George has always been really good in qualifying. He's really matured the last couple of seasons, so I like that. But this third team would not read into this too much. This is more aggressive budget building. I might even tell you what, I'm going to change my team 3, have a bit more fun with it. Let's go Lando. Let's get Albon in. Let's go triple Williams. We're on the Williams hype train. Hang on. How much more budget do I have? Pierre? We do Pierre. Yeah, let's do Pierre. Confirm changes. Remaining cost cap, 5 million. Blimey. Okay. So maybe I should No, I will. I tell you what. Let's go, Oscar. Yeah, let's just stick to it. And then Hadja. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that. So that's the third team, experimental team. But this team and the Mercedes team is a go. Let's see. How much am I being roasted in the comments for not going Williams McLaren? Not as bad as I thought. All right, time to get back to questions, guys. I'll probably wrap up the stream in 5 minutes, but wanted to give you an overview of what my team thought process was for this week. I wonder what everyone else is landing on among the other content creators. Let's see what everyone else is up to. Let's try what Tom's up to. Pop Pan Man, has he posted? It looks like he's still streaming, but I don't know if he's posted his team yet. We'll be live on YouTube in a few minutes. What about Adam? Adam's usually pretty punctual with his team. Lock it in. He's gone my team. Oh, pretty identical. Let's go. Keeping it conservative to maximize points. Nice work, boss. Fills me with some level of comfort. Who else is there? Ewan, Rain. These guys, if you don't follow any of them on Twitter, you absolutely should subscribe to their YouTube as well. Absolute content juggernauts, all of these guys. No post for Ewan. Let's see, Rain. That probably also means who do I need to look at? Fantasy Tips. I'm sure Fantasy Tips is Rain's gone the same. No Stroll. I'm the only. Why am I searching Stroll? I think I'm the only one that's gone the window liquor tips. Where's Plonker? What's Plonker locked in? Oh, Plonker's gone Williams. I love to see it. Let's see. Let's have it. Oh, he posted it ages ago. Fair enough. I'm probably forgetting some people, but that is that in the chat. Did I not? Is my screen not sharing? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Doesn't matter. All right, 9 minutes, guys. Get those teams locked in. I'll wrap up a couple minutes before the hour just so I can get bedded into the qualifying. What's your league? My league is in... join Plonker's league, it's fine, but my league is going to be on my page. It is this number here highlighted. All right, last questions, guys. And as I said, please do like the video. It means a lot. Everyone in the chat has been so wonderful for the first deadline stream of the season. There will be plenty more coming up, but I'll be sure to brief you on that when the time comes. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, may the force be with you this weekend. Which one would you say is better for a friends league, McLaren Williams or Ferrari Mercedes? Well, I mean, it depends what your friends do. I think a lot of people that I've spoken to that are playing fantasy for the first time have probably, thought more about Williams. So maybe go different if you want to beat your friends. My final is Ferrari, Red Bull, Russell. Sounds great. Russell signs Alonso, Hulkenberg, Ocon. Yep, that looks good. Stroll. Yeah, I've gone Stroll. I'll put this up here so everyone can see my team. Okay, I'm probably going to get flamed in the comments for being boring, but so be it. Does it make a difference? Not really. How much can you really expect Stroll to gain in value? Not much, but I'm not getting Stroll for the value. I'm getting Stroll and Hulkenberg for the... If I wanted to play like purely value gain, I'd probably go the Williams lineup, which is my team 2. But this team 1 is more just like points preservation, given it's the first race of the season in a rainy race. Chep Leaks Frog team. Let's see. Oh, has Andrew posted a team? I reckon he's gone Williams. I think he's gone Williams. He was Alpine. I knew it. He was talking about Alpine quite a bit, and he's gone Stroll. So I feel good that the former number 1 in the world. Follow Andrew if you're on Twitter. Won F1 Fantasy last year. Absolute statistical guru when it comes to deciding his team. I'll throw him a like. He was, I was talking, I could see he was talking about Alpine a little bit in the F1 Fantasy Tools Discord. That's Leap's team. I'll go back to mine, but he's got Stroll, so there you go. Good luck, Rob. Last year was my first year playing and you helped me win my friend's league. Oh, I'm so glad, Jennifer. Congratulations on the victory. Piastri signs Alonso, Hulk, Gasly, Mercedes, Williams. Thoughts? Evan, I think that sounds good. Are you not worried about Antonelli in the rain? I think you can. I think it's fair to be worried about Antonelli in the rain, but most teams are going to have a couple of rookies, which is why I've tried to, limit. I've got 3, Hadjar, Bortoletto, and Kimi, but I had in these 2 slots Behrman and Ocon before, which I'm very much against now. So I'm content with that. Thanks so much and good luck. Thank you, and to you too. Oh, Zach, of course. I knew I was forgetting someone. Let's look at Zach. And Terry, of course. Well, everyone on FanAm stream has... let's see if Zach's posted his team. He has. There you go. He's gone the same team, but Ocon instead of Stroll. Not bad. Good stuff, Zach. Love to see it. All right, Alpine times 3 is kind of wild. I know, but I think the reason I said this at the start, Nick, that to go for number 1, you have to take risks, and Andrew's obviously going for that kind of budget upside that Alpine provides. I think they'll probably underqualify, and then Gasly, for example, will make some progress through the race. But guys, 5 minutes to the deadline. Get those teams locked in. I'll just do some final questions. We'll wrap it up, call it a day, and absolutely have fun. Not worry about F1 Fantasy. The teams are locked in 5 minutes. Kristen, Ferrari, Williams, Lewis, signs. Sounds great. Piastri, signs, Stroll, Ferrari, Williams. Nice, Brandt. Don't worry about your team week 1. I know, Jeremy. I'm not worried. I'm really happy. I thought I wouldn't say I had a mental breakdown, but it was funny to talk to all you guys about obviously the right decisions and all the decisions for this week. But really happy with the team. So let's see how it goes. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. So please drop a like, as I said, on the video. Subscribe to the channel. It's been a superstar first stream for the season. I've honestly had the best 2 hours with all of you. And looking forward to doing many more of these throughout the season. So hopefully I see you back for the next one. We'll be back for China. Good luck to all of you this weekend. First race of the season, as Jeremy pointed out, and as I've said, we've always got the wild card and hits up our sleeves if we absolutely need to make any changes. But I'm going to leave it there for now, guys. Good luck with your teams this weekend, and I will see you all very soon.